Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Sunday, September 11th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Now, if you're looking for my MLB best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Of course, I'm always running my $15 MLB best bet, so check it out at Pickdawgz Premium. And also want to mention I did an NFL Ron's Rundown. I go over every game for week 1 of the NFL season. I'm going to keep doing those throughout the NFL season, so check it out. I'm going to put a link to that video in the comments section below. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Sunday, September 11th. First up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Kyle Bradish and Rich Hill on the mound for this one. Now, I'm a numbers guy. I trust the statistics. You guys know I go over plenty of numbers through the Ron's Rundown videos, but sometimes the eye test is worth something. And, watching this series and watching the Boston Red Sox over the last few series, to me, they just lost all passion for the game. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're a few games under 500. It's been a disappointing year for really the entire organization, but this team is just not really playing with much passion at all, and it's tough to back them right now. We saw in the first game of this series where the Red Sox were the dog. I thought it was their best chance to win a game in this series, and Brian Bayo pitched well. The Red Sox had a lead through 5 innings, but as soon as the Orioles found 3 runs in the bottom of the 6th, the Red Sox just gave up, basically. They went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position, and it just doesn't look like this Red Sox team has any kind of want or desire to be on the field right now, while the Orioles, who have been a team that's been near the bottom of the standings for the last 5 years or so, they're finally having a successful year. They've well above 500. They've got a chance at the playoffs, not a great chance, but they're still fighting for that wild card spot. You can tell that they have a lot more passion in their game, and I think they're better. They have a much better bullpen. I would also trust Kyle Bradish here than against Rich Hill, where Rich Hill's given up 9 earned runs in his last 2 starts, only 8 innings of work in those 2 outings. So even though the Red Sox have better numbers offensively against righties than the Orioles do against lefties, I got to take the Orioles here at a pretty good price on the money line at home. Next up, we see the New York Yankees hosting the Tampa Bay Rays. No official starter for the Rays right now. Domingo Germán is listed for the Yankees right now, but also no official lineup for this game. So a little bit of a tough one to handicap, but I'm just going to take a lead with the Tampa Bay Rays. I think they're playing much better ball right now. I don't trust Domingo Germán on the mound. I think you look at his ERA, 3.27. I do think there's some regression concerns in his game. The strikeout numbers for him have kind of been all over the place, but overall this year, 55 innings pitched, only 38 strikeouts. That's very concerning for me. He's given up at least 1 home run in 3 of his last 4 starts, and it just goes to the Yankees just not playing really good ball. I mean, they won the series against the Twins, but were very disappointing in the first game of this series with the Tampa Bay Rays, and we know the Rays have, in the past few seasons, they've dominated the Yankees in these season series, even in the playoff series they had a few years ago in the bubble, so I don't like the Yankees in this spot, even at home. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Rays on the money line, but not my favorite game on the board. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Anibal Sanchez and Aaron Nola are your projected starters. Now, the Phillies are huge favorites in this one, and we're going to see a lot of these type of moneyline favorites in the month of September when we see these mismatched games with 2 teams that have much different records. But when you look at Anibal Sanchez, he hasn't been bad. I mean, you got to give him credit. His last 5 starts, he's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of those games, with most of those starts being 1 earned run or fewer. So he's faced some tough lineups. He faced the Padres twice. The Nationals won both of those games. He faced the Mariners on the road. The Nationals won that game. He faced the Cardinals in his last start on the road. The Nationals won that game. 6 innings, no earned runs against the Cards in a 6-0 Nationals win. So although I don't love the Nationals against Aaron Nola, and I wouldn't want to take them on the money line or the run line, I still think Anibal Sanchez keeps them in this game, makes it a close one, and I think it's going to be a low-scoring game overall. Aaron Nola pitching well this season, especially against some of the weaker teams. We saw last time out against the Miami Marlins, 6 2/3 innings, 10 strikeouts, only 1 earned run allowed. So I'm going to trust Nola and Sanchez for a sharp starts from both of these guys here. I'm going to take the under in this Nationals-Phillies game. In our next game, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Jose Quintana faces his former team, Mitch Keller, on the other side. Mitch Keller's probably been the best starter for the Pirates this season. He's got a 4.22 ERA and about 130 innings of work. His last few starts, he's been sharp. His last 12 innings against the Brewers and Mets, 2 teams that hit righties pretty well. He's only given up a combined 2 earned runs. Now, the strikeout numbers have kind of been all over the place. He had 10 strikeouts in that Brewers outing, only 2 Ks in that Mets start. But overall, 109 strikeouts in those 130 innings, not too bad. He's faced the Cardinals twice this season. The first start, miserable. 4 innings, 4 earned runs, a home run. That was the first start of the year for him. But the next start in St. Louis, he went 5 1/3, giving up only 2 earned runs. It was a much better start there. I think we see a similar outing to that one in this game. And Jose Quintana facing a Pirates lineup that's third highest strikeout rate against lefties in the last month, 26th in isolated power against lefties in that stretch as well. I think we see a lower scoring game. Quintana's been very good for the Cardinals in his first, I would say, 7 starts with his new team. So give me the under in this Cardinals-Pirates game. Next up, we head to Miami as the New York Mets take on the Miami Marlins. We're going to see Taijuan Walker and Jesus Luzardo as the projected starters. Now we see the New York Mets division lead slipped away. The Braves are now in first place going into Saturday's games. We'll have to see what the final scores are for those Saturday ball games. But the New York Mets, I'm not saying they're collapsing. They still have a very good chance, according to ESPN, greater than a 99.9% chance to make the playoffs. But those division lead, that's a big division to win. You don't really want to play in that wild card game, even though you've got great starting pitching with guys like DeGrom and Scherzer. The Mets are certainly going to want to turn it on here, but I don't like their chances in this game. Taijuan Walker, he's kind of been inconsistent since the All-Star break. His last start against the Pirates wasn't a good one. 5 innings, 4 earned runs, allowed a home run, and overall, since the All-Star break, he's definitely struggled mostly, giving up a good amount of base hits, not really striking out as many guys, walking a lot more batters than we saw as well, which is concerning, and he's faced the Marlins quite a few times this season. We know Miami, not a very good lineup, but they're starting to turn it on a little bit offensively. We saw in the final game in that Phillies series and the first game in this Mets series, the Marlins scoring some runs, which is a good sign to see. The last time Taijuan Walker faced the Marlins, he went 5 2/3 innings, giving up 7 base hits and 3 earned runs. Now, the offense backed him up in that game. The Mets won that one 9-3. But you're facing a lefty here and a talented lefty in Jesus Luzardo. We know the Mets don't hit lefties nearly as well as they hit righties. And Luzardo's been pitching well this season, coming off a great start against the Phillies. A very good lineup against lefties. 7 innings, 2 earned runs, and 9 strikeouts. So I'm going to take the Miami Marlins here, plus the 1.5 runs. I'll sprinkle a little bit on the money line. I think they compete in this one, and the Mets could be in trouble with their NL East hopes. Next up, we see a 2:10 Eastern start time between the Los Angeles Angels and the Houston Astros. Tucker Davidson and Luis Garcia are the starters. Luis Garcia faced the Angels in his most recent outing. He went 7 innings, 1 earned run, and 7 strikeouts. And overall, his second half of the year hasn't been the best for Garcia, but he has pitched well against the Angels this year in 18 2/3 innings, giving up a 2.41 ERA with 21 strikeouts and an opponent's batting average of 127. So I like Garcia in this spot, and I like the Astros bats in this one as well, as they're facing another lefty in Tucker Davidson here, who they just crushed for 7 earned runs and 2 homers in the last time they faced him, a 9-1 Astros win in that game. Overall this season, the Astros have been great against lefties, especially at their home ballpark at Minute Maid Park. So I'm going to take the Houston Astros and lay the 1.5 runs. Even if Garcia gives the Astros about 6 innings, 3 earned runs, a decent quality start, I still like the Astros to cover the run line in the end. So give me Houston minus 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Milwaukee Brewers with Justin Dunn and Brandon Woodruff as your starters. Now, Brandon Woodruff this year, 3.41 ERA, but a 2.22 ERA at home with a 5-0 home record, 69 strikeouts and 52 2/3 innings at home. And I like him in this spot. I think his offense is going to back him up against Justin Dunn in a pretty weak Reds bullpen. Dunn this season, a 4.82 ERA, giving up a lot of home runs already. 9 home runs in 28 innings. It's about 3 home runs every 9 innings. That's not going to get it done. And I do think that the Brewers, they've shown this season they've got great power numbers against righties. They're right now in the top 10 in isolated power against righties in the last month. So I think they get to Dunn. Dunn doesn't usually go too deep into games. So give me the Milwaukee Brewers on the run line. They need this one if they want any chance of making the playoffs. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Minnesota Twins with Shane Bieber going for the Guardians. No official starter for the Twins right now. I'm going to take the under through the first 5 innings of this one. Bieber's got a 3 ERA, 3.00 against the Twins this season, pitching pretty well against them, and a 2.74 road ERA. He's got 171 strikeouts and 167 innings overall this season, coming off another good start against the Royals where he only gave up 1 earned run and 8 innings of work with 7 strikeouts. And the Cleveland Guardians offensively, in the last month, they haven't been the greatest. You look at the numbers against righties, which they've been hitting righties pretty well all year long, but in isolated power, ranked 29th in the league. Team OPS is ranked 25th in the last 30 days. We know they don't really hit lefties well, so I do think this is going to be a lower scoring game in the first 5 innings. I don't love the Twins bullpen, so I'm just going to take the under through the first 5. Next up, we see an AL Central matchup between the Detroit Tigers and the Kansas City Royals. Tyler Alexander and Brady Singer are your starters. Now, I have to admit, I am a little bit surprised to see the Royals only at minus 145 right now. I do have to think that this line's going to rise. I wouldn't be surprised to see it at minus 170 plus at some point because the Royals hit lefties pretty well. Tyler Alexander's got that ERA above 5, and I don't really trust him in this game. Coming off a start against the Angels where he gave up 7 total runs, 6 of those were earned, 2 homers, and he's given up at least 1 home run in each of his last 5 starts. And then you got on the other side Brady Singer, who's been the best starting pitcher for the Royals this season with a 3.38 ERA, even better numbers at home where he's got a 6-2 record with a 3.12 ERA. Coming off not the greatest start against the Guardians, but still wasn't the worst outing ever. And I think the Royals win behind him. So I'm going to take the Kansas City Royals and take them on the money line in this one. It's the Blue Jays and the Rangers here with Martin Perez going for the Rangers. No official starter for the Blue Jays right now. Now, the Blue Jays have hit lefties pretty well. Against righties, they haven't really done much offensively in the last month. But against lefties, that's where they've done their damage. Top 4 in team OPS, top 5 in isolated power, one of the lower strikeout rates in the league against left-handers. So I like their chances against Martin Perez. Perez has kind of been inconsistent. He struggled against the Astros back on August 31st. Then he had a nice start against the Astros on the road on September 5th. He pitched well at Coors Field against the Rockies. We saw him give up 7 earned runs to the Astros back on August 9th. So it's kind of been inconsistent times for Perez since the All-Star break. But like I said, the Blue Jays' numbers against lefties tough to ignore. I think Perez struggles in this one. Give me the Toronto Blue Jays on the money line. Next up, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Colorado Rockies. Zach Gallen and Ryan Feltner are your starters. Now, sometimes we see starting pitchers go on great runs, but maybe there's a little bit of regression in their game to worry about. Maybe the public's giving them a little bit too much love. They're overvalued in spots, but I don't think you're a fun person if you're fading Zach Gallen right now. He is on an amazing run. He's pitching well. There's really no regression concerns because he's missing bats. He's not giving up home runs. He's not walking batters. So until he shows me that he's going to struggle in a game, I got to take the Diamondbacks here at a decent price on the road. Zach Gallen hasn't given up a single earned run since August 2nd. That's unbelievable. Over a month of work, he hasn't given up a single earned run. Now, do I think that streak will come to an end at Coors Field? Yes, it's the place where most pitchers do go to get hit pretty hard. But, I mean, Gallen, including in this streak where Gallen hasn't given up a single earned run, one of those starts was at Coors Field where he went 7 innings, no earned runs. So I do think Gallen pitches well enough for the Diamondbacks to win this game in the end. Ryan Feltner's kind of been inconsistent this year, but his ERA is still above 5.8. So the Diamondbacks have been good against righties this season. Gallen's been fantastic. Give me the Arizona Diamondbacks on the money line because I'm a fun person. In our next game, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Oakland Athletics with Cole Irvin and Johnny Cueto on the mound. Now, when there's a lefty on the mound against the White Sox right now, I've got to fade him automatically. I'm taking the White Sox on the money line. Cole Irvin's last 2 starts, he's given up 14 earned runs and 2 homers. But when you just look at the White Sox numbers against lefties alone, that's enough for me to take him here. The lowest strikeout rate by far, 12% against lefties in the last month. The next lowest team is the Padres, 16.7%, so about 5% lower than the second lowest strikeout rate. Top 5 walk rate, number 1 in team OPS, number 2 in isolated power. They crushed J.P. Sears and Zach Logue in the beginning of this series. I think they get to Irvin, and Johnny Cueto's been good enough for me to take a chance with the White Sox. I'm going to take the White Sox on the run line, laying the 1.5 runs on the road. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Seattle Mariners. Marco Gonzalez and Jake Odorizzi are your starters. 2 starting pitchers that are kind of been tough to read lately. Both guys with sub-4 ERAs, but both guys I've had my concerns with this year. Jake Odorizzi starting to give up some home runs. His strikeout numbers have been all over the place for him. I do think he is a starting pitcher that needs to miss bats to have success. I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that in this game. However, I don't really trust Marco Gonzalez on the other side for the Mariners, a left-handed pitcher going up against the Braves lineup that's been very good against lefties. They have a much lower strikeout rate against lefties. Team OPS is ranked 3rd. The isolated power ranks 7th in the last 30 days. So I don't love Gonzalez's chances. He struggled in his last 2 outings, even though he was able to go 6 and 7 innings. He hasn't been the sharpest, gave up 2 homers in his last start. I think this is going to be an overall higher scoring game, but I do think the Braves have the better lineup and the slightly better bullpen. So give me the Braves on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the San Diego Padres. Andrew Heaney going for the Dodgers and Joe Musgrove for the Padres. Now, both starting pitchers on paper, great ERAs. Heaney at 2.94, Musgrove at 3.16, but both guys are in miserable form. Andrew Heaney giving up a ton of home runs. Now, he's striking some guys out still, 8 strikeouts at least in his last 4 starts, but also 2 home runs or more allowed in 3 of his last 4 starts. And he's facing a Padres lineup that I just mentioned going over that White Sox game, the second lowest strikeout rate against lefties in the last month. So if Heaney's not able to miss those bats, I think he could be in trouble. The Padres against lefties in the last month, top 10 in isolated power, top 10 in team OPS, so I don't love this spot for Andrew Heaney, but I also don't love what I'm seeing from Joe Musgrove against the Diamondbacks in his most recent outing. 4 1/3 innings, 5 total runs, 4 of those were earned, 3 home runs allowed, and he's really struggled since the beginning of August. In August, an ERA above 4, and that's not what we're used to seeing from Musgrove, who had such a good start to the season. So I'm going to take the over. I think this total is set far too low at 7.5. Give me the over in the Dodgers-Padres. It's your final game of the night between the San Francisco Giants and the Chicago Cubs. No official starter for the Giants right now. Wade Miley going for the Cubbies. The Giants have hit lefties well this season. That goes in the last 30 days, but their strikeout rate is up there against lefties. And to me, the Cubs are just in better form. I think the Giants have kind of given up on the season, similar to the Red Sox, teams that had big expectations but fell flat, have no chance of making the playoffs, and thus don't really have much to play for right now. Well, the Chicago Cubs, they've had a disappointing year from start to finish, but they've also had their moments. We saw in the first game of this series, they took the game 4-2 in the final score. They've played well against some tougher teams. They've had a really tough schedule as of late, playing a lot of teams above 500, but I think they take their frustration out on the Giants here. This is not a game that I'll be watching. This is going to be up against the Cowboys-Buccaneers Sunday Night Football game. I can probably believe that most of you will be watching that football game more than this baseball game as well, but I'll take a lean with the Chicago Cubs on the money line. Like I said, one of the worst games on the board, and it's a shame that it's going to be the Sunday Night Baseball contest, but that's how it is in September. So give me the Chicago Cubs on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday, September 11th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Also got that NFL edition of Ron's Rundown. Don't forget to check that out. Go over every single game in the Week 1 schedule. And I'm going to put a link to that video in the comments section below. I got my best bets at Pick Dawgz Premium. And as always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.